everyone rushes to get you diagnosed. They say, you have got to pay, if you go private, thousands of pounds. If you go public, you wait, who knows now, maybe 6 years for a diagnosis. You do everything, it all builds up. You get this huge label dumped on you, and then they go, all right, off you go. Go and work it out yourself. And you're sort of stuck. Who knows what to do, right? And I always say there's not a condition that would be worse to have in a state of uncertainty like that.
Welcome to the Unconventional Business Podcast, your place for real stories of real people growing their businesses in the real world. Most of us are neurodivergent in some way, but of course everyone is welcome. This is the place for rule breakers, narrative dismantlers, and those who just want to forge their own unique path in the world. You will find no do it my way or 6 steps to 6 figures and all that BS here. My guests and I will offer guidance that allows you to take just the bits you like and easily apply them to your business. And of course, to bin the rest if you like. After all, building a successful business, whatever success means to you, is about creating something with structure and flow, not something rigid that feels like wearing someone else's clothes. Join me on this journey and together, let's do business differently. Joining me today is the lovely Josh Budd, founder of Neuro Notion, where he's building the world's first education and life management platform for adults with ADHD. And as an adult with ADHD, who doesn't want that, right? Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
I'll start with my favourite question. What makes you unconventional?
That is a good question. I suppose I am unconventional in a few ways. The first way is obviously I have ADHD. I think I'm also slightly unconventional to a sub level in that I was actually diagnosed quite young at the age of 10, and now we're seeing so many people diagnosed late on in their life, which is great to see. But I think that's sort of fortunate for me. I was diagnosed young enough to sort of develop myself as a person while knowing how my condition affected me, whereas those people who are diagnosed late, it's sort of on catch up to work out, okay, what's all this? How does this affect me? So yeah, I'm unconventional in that way. I would say the second thing that makes me most different to people is that I am literally obsessed with systems and efficient systems, probably to a level where I'm unconventional to that. I think that systems, etc., they're the key to feeling in control of your life, particularly if you have ADHD. I think that's just a huge area where I'm a massive geek about. But they're not, I don't mean systems in a boring sense. People think systems have to be like monotonous and boring, but the purpose of the system is to take stuff out of your head, to take all the strain off of your brain pretty much and make everything else easy. Whatever I can build that does that, I love. That's me.
I love that. And yeah, I totally agree. I always say to my clients, like, when it comes to executive functioning, like the wiring that doesn't exist in your brain, you need to find a way of externalizing it and building scaffolding, systems, support,
scaffolding, yeah.
Stuff that exists outside of you. You're just externalizing it. You can still achieve all the things you want to achieve, and you can still be focused and organized, but you can't rely on certain parts of your brain to help you out there. So just build it externally. So yeah, I can really see your passion for that, and I really respect it because I also massively geek out. Like, if I can automate something so I never have to think about it again, that's like
amazing, right?
Peak level geek.
True believer of work smart and hard. And I think if you can create things that you have like your own little mini army of systems that work for you in the background and just make your life 100 times easier, then you have more time to spend on whatever you actually want to do, rather than being bogged down in this cycle
and energy. Let's face it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how is this different from how you started? I'd love to hear the Neuro Notion origin story.
So the origin story pretty much is that like I said, I was diagnosed with ADHD at 10. I didn't really know much about it when I was that age, because I was just before the cusp really where you care about learning. I think from the ages of 12 on, I stumbled across like this ADHD subreddit, and it just blew my mind. I was like, wow, these people, they know me. How do they know me? Everything they said just really resonated with me. And then that pretty much sparked something in my mind to become obsessed with learning about how my ADHD affected me, etc. And aside from that, outside of my ADHD, I was I was already quite invested in becoming like the most effective I could at everything, and started to develop systems away from that. They pretty much just ended up fusing together, and then I became really, really passionate about building stuff just for personal use at this point for a good 4 or 5 years that worked alongside my brain. And then I came to university and I realized everybody around me who has ADHD was fucked pretty much. They were in the mud, and they didn't have any systems or any coping mechanisms or anything like that. So that's when I started Neuro Notion, and the first thing I created was something for students. It was a university students, just like a centralized hub for them to do everything in one place. And then it expanded from there, and then it went into sort of general life management for everyone. And now I specialize in people who've just been diagnosed because I think they need the most help.
Yeah, I love that. And I think sometimes, like, the medicine that we make for ourselves always ends up being the best thing we can offer other people. Like when you've lived it and you've practiced it on yourself and you've tried it, and you don't have to test your user experience. Like you
Yeah,
are it, you do it. I
you
think
are it.
that's when you really know it's going to help people, and it does, and it makes a difference. I love that. So what do you think particularly ADHDers believe about systems or scaffolding, that whatever you want to call it, that just isn't true?
I think maybe it's a bit of a cliche thing now to say, but because you see it so often. But I think that there's this ideology that people with ADHD have that their brain is just broken, and because it doesn't fit into systems that already exist. Whereas I think that's one thing that I'm really passionate about changing the message of, and the idea of in this space is that your system can be designed around you as an ADHDer. In the past, the only things that exist, like tools, systems, strategies, techniques, they're never designed specifically for people with ADHD. So these people, they use these system strategies that are designed for neurotypical people. They inevitably fail because it's not designed for them. It doesn't get how their brain ticks. It doesn't get how their brain operates. And then they beat themselves up when the reality is that your brain is literally wired differently. The system that you need to use needs to understand how you work. Otherwise, it won't work. So I think that's the thing. One thing that people believe is, I can't stick to systems. There's something wrong with me. Where you aren't broken. You're just different. Your brain is different. And if you create a system that is also different, you're on the level playing field now. It's not, you're no longer at this disadvantage. And obviously, with caveats, there are other things that come into it. So you're probably not on a level playing field in certain areas, but from that perspective, everything is equal.
Yeah, I love that thought. And yeah, great catch. Like, we can never really look at anything in isolation. There's always going to be other stuff that plays into it. Like race and gender and sexual orientation and any other reason why you might be marginalised or discriminated against. But I do think your point is valid around realising, and I try to share a similar message, that, yeah, you're not broken, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just that you've been a square peg trying to shave off your edges to get into a round hole, and actually what you need is the square hole. And everything changes when you realize that, and then you start to find the places where you belong rather than trying to fit in. And I think it comes back to that thing you said when we spoke first about, it's not about making things that are ADHD friendly, it's about making things that are ADHD-centric. Like, you start from that point. You don't shave off the edges and try to make it work.
Exactly. It's because you can't do that, right? Like if you understand how an ADHD brain works, whatever you're building, so like I'm thinking of this from the perspective of building a platform or a digital tool, it has to be built from the ground up with that person in mind, because the very fundamentals of everything involved need to be aligned with how that person's brain tick, how does their reward system work, etc., etc. All those differences. So you can't just do it and then go, let's put some fluffy colors on it and a nice couple of emojis and say this is friendly for ADHD people, because it's not. It just looks like it is from the start. If you actually have ADHD and you use those things, you'll realize, okay, this is just the same as everything else.
Yeah.
And one thing I see so much as well, you get these like educational things and they're like, yeah, this is ADHD friendly. And then you go on it. It's like a compact courses. and they're like 10 minutes long each, or like 30 minutes long, loads of writing involved, no interaction, and you just think this is wrong, you're lying. But yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, I'd love to hear some examples. Tell me some of your ADHD-centric features that your platform has.
yeah. So the first thing, so we have a couple of MVPs that already exist, but for the vision of what we're building right now is that you can come onto this platform, you can open it up, if whether it's an app or you come on your laptop, and all you do is speak. You press one big button in the middle of your screen, you speak, and you just brain dump. You just take all the shit out of your head and you dump it into a system, and this system organizes everything else in the background. And so you can come on and say, I've had a bit of a average day today. I was stuck in traffic for ages. Oh, I've got to remember to take the meat out of the freezer for dinner. And oh, I saw this thing on a podcast that spoke about the benefits of planking every morning. So add that to my morning routine. Blah blah blah. Right? You just, this complete stream of consciousness comes out, and the system is intelligent enough to say, all right, you need to defrost meat from the freezer. That's a task that adds to your task list. You need to plank has been added to your morning routine. This has been added to your journal. We've logged that you had a bad day because you were stuck in traffic. There's a pattern there, it recognizes that. So something that just lets you fully, unconditionally just blurt stuff out of your brain. And then it will condense it all and show you only what matters, and not anything extra, not excess stuff, no fluff, because that doesn't work. You need to see real succinct and frictionless. That those are the two things. I think that's the main thing that is ADHD friendly or centric, shall we say.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And also person centric, right?
Mhm.
Because it's not telling you what to do, it's allowing you to get all of the crap out of your head, like you said, and really adopting that ethos that's one I share, that everyone I work with already has all the answers in their head already.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
your system kind of sounds like what I do for my clients. They arrive, they word vomit, and we pick through it all and we decide, yeah, what matters, what's relevant. But it's not about me solving their problems or giving them answers. It's about them just having that little bit of space to see,
Just a bit of clarity.
like, it's all, yeah, clarity. It's all there already. So I love the fact that what you're describing there really allows you to go with something that, exactly like you said, feels frictionless, but then have something else give you that support to organize it and to put it into places, so that you've got that visual representation of all the mess in your brain.
Yeah, absolutely. I think another thing as well that's important to touch on is a lot of or things that come out like this. That one of the things they really encourage, and it's a metric that pretty much every app that gets created swears by, is something called user stickiness, which is pretty much how long somebody spends on your app. And people will use this and they will design their app to keep people there as long as possible, because then they can go to investors or etc. and say, look how long people spend on our app, it's great. But I actually want to do the complete opposite. I think there's as little time as you can spend on this app. That is but still get stuff done, as a caveat. That is a that's an indicator for me that it's working, because you shouldn't be spending time on your phone having to log these things, right? For it to really give you, like I said, put you on the same level playing field, you shouldn't have to spend 30 minutes every day taking stuff out of your brain and putting it into a system to organize it. It should be a 3-minute, 5-minute job, right? That doesn't feel like a chore to do, but actually alleviates stress in itself. You really want to do it, and that is more important signifier or indicator for me that it actually works.
That that thought process is music to my ears. I'm constantly talking my clients through that process of, like, how can you make that on ramp so easy that it becomes a no-brainer, but also make it fun, make it enjoyable. There's this sort of widely held belief that like, you're waiting for motivation to do something, and one day, like, the motivation angel will come down and cast motivation on you. And I'm like, no, that's not how reward pathways work, especially not for ADHDers.
Yeah.
You need to be disciplined enough to do the thing, and the more you do it, the more motivation you get. And in order to make that on ramp of discipline, like, not feel like so hard you can't do it. You have to make it ridiculously easy, and you have to make it enjoyable. And it sounds like you've absolutely done that. So yeah, what kind of feedback have you had from people about what you've built?
So the first sort of MVP we had was we just built a
minimum
Notion
viable
template.
Product for anybody who needs the definition.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, pretty much a simple version of what we were creating, or of what our vision is for the app. We created inside a Notion template and distributed it to people. And we only have 5-star reviews. Every single thing. If you go through the reviews, they say things like, "This app literally understands my brain," and stuff like that. Like, it's comprehensive, just a place for you to just manage everything and keep all the stuff in your head quiet. And that's pretty much all of the consensus from all the reviews, all the feedback we've had when we speak to people. Very, very interestingly, which is a huge point and a huge, again, indicator of success, is it actually sticks. Almost everybody I've spoken to who we helped on board, or who, so I just did a recent round of interviews to get pretty much like customer attitudes for the new platform and see what things people were struggling with most, to inform what we're building. And during that, at the start of the conversation, I say, how's it going with the template? Are you still using it? Almost all of them, I think 95% at least, said they were still using it. This is from at least 1 month ago, all of them. Which, I'm sure if your audience is full of people with ADHD, they will know tools don't really stick for more than a month. You get 2-3 weeks max, and then they're gone. So I think it speaks volumes really about you suddenly give somebody something that's designed around their brain, and oh, what a surprise, it works.
I love that. Yeah. And I think the key things of making it feel organic, you're just talking to a friend and just going, blah, there's all the things in my head, but also making it visual so that it's fun and it's enjoyable as well. Yeah, that you've kind of got the magic combo there to ensure that, like you said, it remains sticky and people. But I think that's the thing, is when you really, really feel the benefit of something,
you want to.
You won't feel it immediately.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. You won't feel it immediately, but you will over time start to see it, and then even those times you don't want to do it, there's a louder voice going, but you know that this is good for you. Like, I made myself deliberately uncomfortable at the beginning of September, and I started to get up at the same time every day. No more lions. So even at weekends, have to get up at 6:30.
Commendable.
I knew it was the answer to my insomnia, but I just didn't want to accept it. I probably spent about 3 or 4 years ignoring that that was probably the thing that was going to help. And now, on the mornings, my alarm goes and I open my eyes and I think, fuck this. I'm like, well, you don't have to deal with lying awake at night having an existential crisis. Get up. Like, the benefit is just so massive. There's too many reasons to do it and not enough. And it just about pushing through that discomfort to do the thing. So I think once you really start to see the benefits, and it becomes a no-brainer, and like you've created a no-brainer on-ramp there, like turn up, say what's on your mind. Amazing. Well, yeah, I'm in awe. I think like there just aren't enough things out there yet that are ADHD-centric, but it just goes to show some different thinking, you can get a very different result.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could wave a magic wand to help all ADHDers, what would you do?
Well, as sort of part of who we're targeting with this platform is newly diagnosed ADHDers, right? And as I said, I think they need the most help. And that, I suppose, then that ties into the fact that if I could wave a magic wand, I would fix that state. Let's call it a state, because the state of post-diagnosis support is not very good right now. Like, there's a real imbalance between everyone rushes to get you diagnosed. They say, you have got to pay, if you go private, thousands of pounds. If you go public, you wait, who knows now, maybe 6 years for a diagnosis. You do everything, it all builds up. You get this huge label dumped on you, and then they go, all right, off you go. Go and work it out yourself. And you're sort of stuck. Who knows what to do, right? And I always say, there's not a condition that would be worse to have in a state of uncertainty like that. to know, okay, right, I have to go and first understand and then do, and then now I've also got to mix in all this understanding what's happened to me in my past, 40 years or whatever it is, however, since you've been not diagnosed. This explains so much, but I've still got to navigate this entire path and understand it. And I just think there's just a real disparity. I think there needs to be a complete overhaul of that whole system. The support that you get, every single person, no matter who you are, you deserve to have guidance, support, next steps given to you when you get diagnosed. And I think they pay enough money for a diagnosis that at least a helping hand or a guidance. I mean, at the moment they say here is a list of coaches, and the coaches stuff is amazing and it helps them, but also at the same time, like, there's nothing else at the same time. Like, they only get this sort of like 1 hour where they feel like they're making progress, 1 hour a week or 1 hour a month, however long they have in a coaching session. It's amazing, but they also need support outside of that, I think.
Yeah,
So that's what
definitely.
I would
And
fix.
yeah, I would love to do that too. Yeah, and I think it all starts with kids in school. Firstly, getting better at noticing when kids are struggling and being able to assess them to figure out why, but also just adopting more varied ways of learning in schools so that kids that think differently don't have to struggle so much. I see it in my son's school. They're quite forward thinking. They're an academy, so they're not beholden to the curriculum. And it's incredible. They're doing maths outside, and everything is like the maths is all practical. It was just sitting writing on sheets for me. And
Yeah,
they like take a story and then they create their own version of it, and they might dress up and put on a play. Just it's so,
that's so good.
whether you're like kinesthetic, audio, visual learner, there'll be something in there for you. And I think if we took more of that approach, and the same goes for the workplace, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
the sort of standard corporate workplace has got all these very rigid ways of doing things, but actually, if you want your business to benefit from people that think differently and just like not be a dick, how about thinking about different ways of working? Maybe it isn't a
100%.
meeting, maybe it's an email conversation, or maybe it's not an email conversation, it's a quick meeting. So yeah, there's definitely more. I think we're on the cusp of more of that stuff.
Think so, yeah. I really think we are. It's very exciting. We've seen a lot of stuff come out, but I think also, to touch on that, there's this sort of stigma that these sorts of things are just like them ticking a box for corporate social responsibility. They're like, okay, yep, cool. We can say that we care about people now, but if they just shifted their mindset and understood that there is a huge amount of potential in these people that is not being unlocked because you don't understand them, you're not facilitating them properly, right? As a business owner, I think that the best way to grow your business is to facilitate the people in it. If you do that, if you facilitate people in it, and you have people with ADHD, people who are autistic, and all the other differences that people have that are unaccounted for in most workplaces, the economy, I think, would go up a significant amount, because you're unlocking a whole new sort of percentage of people's things that they can provide to you that is just currently untapped. So I think it's more than even just for the individual, but it benefits both sides 100%.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of that is about breaking these very rigid ways of thinking and organizing ourselves and breaking the 40-hour week, breaking the 9 to 5 and working from a starting point that everybody has value. They're just going to be able to deliver it in different ways. But broadly speaking, most people want to contribute and be rewarded for their value as a person in some kind of way. We're just going to have to be more imaginative about how that looks. So yeah, we've gone very
100%.
philosophical. So you talked about, and I could really relate to that actually, the initial diagnosis phase, sort of post-diagnosis. It wasn't, I suppose, a date in the diary for me, but a sort of slow realization, because I'm still technically on a waiting list. Big
Yeah, well,
lols.
aren't we all? Most people are.
So yeah, what do you think is like a really important first step for somebody, given that there's such a lack of post-diagnosis support? Like what's their first port of call?
Yeah, I think the most important thing you can do, even as a systems geek, I'm admitting that there is something above systems, and it's
Oh,
learning. It's learning. Just, I think, because they get diagnosed and they don't get told where to go, they just don't really bother learning at all, mainly because they don't know where to start. But if I could give somebody a piece of advice, you've just been diagnosed, just start somewhere, just learn somewhere. This condition affects every single facet of your life, except it impacts relationships, motivation, mood, literally everything, work, productivity. Just start learning about it, because the more you learn about it, the more you understand why things work, and then you can actually implement those things with real confidence that they can stick. I think knowledge is the number one thing, the number one port of call for you to build. And I still learn things. I was diagnosed 12 years ago. I literally obsess over learning stuff about this every day. I read scientific journals every day. I'm an absolute nerd for it, and I still learn new things every day. So never stop. There's not a point where you say, all right, cool, I know everything. The more you learn, the better your life will be for ADHD. That's my thoughts.
Absolutely, yeah. Education and connection are always the things I point people towards, and I'm the same. Like, I totally hyper focused on. I read ADHD 2.0 by Hallowell and Ratey. I've just finished Scattered Minds by Gabor Mate. I've read Leanne Maskell's ADHD and
That's the
an A
new
to
one.
Z. Yeah, and Ellie Middleton's Unmasked. That was amazing. I'm always reading some kind of book. Sunny Jane Wise, We're All Neurodiverse. That proper blew my mind. I'll have to put all these recommendations in the show notes. But yeah, like, just I'm always listening to a podcast or reading a book or reading something, because you're right, like, it never stops. But also, we still have so much more to learn. We're so behind on ADHD in
100%.
females,
Yeah.
for example. Like, there's still
Yeah.
so much
Very.
more we've got to figure out. So,
Hmm.
and it is, the more I learn, the more fascinated I am by it. Do you have a podcast or a book recommendation, or a documentary even?
The first book I ever read about ADHD, and I haven't reread it, so maybe it's the bias of it being the first thing that I felt really really understood me, was, I forget, but it's by Peter Shankly, I think his name is. I think it's called Faster Than Normal. It's an audio book. And I don't hear many people talk about it anymore. That's why I'm skeptical to say. I don't know whether it is, but I remember listening to that book. I don't know. I think I was 15 or 16, and that's when I really put my foot on the pedal pretty much and realized, okay, I can achieve good things here. I'm not actually weighed down. So that book sparked a shift in my mental state. So I would recommend that. Called Faster Than Normal.
Yeah, I
The
think
audio
I've heard of
is
that one.
really ADHD friendly. If you can zone out, and whenever it has a key important topic, it shouts squirrel at you, so you remember. So you come back into the zone and you realize. That was very helpful.
I love that. That's amazing. More ADHD centric content there. Yeah, and I think what you're describing there is the most therapeutic thing that can happen to you post realization or post diagnosis, is feeling seen.
Yeah,
That moment when you
100%.
feel seen and you feel understood and you feel like, oh my God, I'm not alone. I'm not the weirdo. I'm not the outsider. And that's why, for me, I always say about education and connection. And education is much easier in today's world. Connection is hard because it involves saying the words out loud to other people.
Hmm.
I kind of challenged myself a while ago when I really realized, like, this is something I've got to own outside. Like, I won't get the diagnosis, so I'm going to have to just get over, because it's weird. You have imposter syndrome if you come to your own realization and you're like, oh no, but I'm fine, it can't possibly be me. And then you're like, yeah, but if you look at your life up until about 5 years ago, it was an absolute car crash. Like, you're not fine. So yeah, having that moment of feeling seen, like, for me, I think I ended up creating that for other people. I put it in my newsletter. I started posting about it. I even put it on the parent WhatsApp group at school. Like, oh, deeply uncomfortable to be like, oh, hey, I'm an ADHDer. But 3 or 4 people reached out to me and they were like, I think my kid might be autistic or might be an ADHDer too. Can we chat? And then now I have my, like, safe people at the school gates who I know I can talk to.
Exactly.
And that's what happens, is you connect, and then you just reach this wonderful place where you don't have to mask and you can just fully be yourself, and you help each other feel seen. And yeah, I've gathered so many of those people around me now that if I speak to someone who isn't neurodivergent, I'm like, oh, this is weird, can't cope with this.
The conversations are completely different, aren't they? There's another level of flowing that you get when you speak to somebody else who thinks the same as you. It's crazy.
It's magic. And there isn't this pressure to be like, oh, do I need to ask about your family now? Like, you just go hard and deep on some kind of philosophical thing, and then you're like, okay, see you later, bye.
Yeah, see you later. And then there's no weirdness about it. It's very good.
No, and we never need to talk about the weather. It's great. So if people have enjoyed listening to you, which I'm sure they have, and they're curious about your platform, how can they find you online, and what can they expect when they do?
Yeah, I don't know, are you going to have a description or something that I can put a link in it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool. Well, if you visit that link in the description, wherever it is, whatever platform you're on, we have pretty much now a suite of life management tools for adults with ADHD. We have things that help you manage tasks, build routines, manage your mental health, do journals, mood logs, etc. They're all designed with the same ethos that I discussed throughout all of this. But soon, just stay tuned on the website. There will be the opportunity to join the waiting list for the new platform that we're building. And that's an opportunity that I hope will come within the next sort of week or two. So,
okay,
there you go.
Amazing. So what is the website?
www.neuro-notion.com.
Cool. For anyone that's too lazy to go to the show notes, because let's face it, we're talking to ADHDers now.
That's a good point.
They can type along with that. Yeah, I feel like I could talk to you all day, but
likewise,
we don't have all day. So yeah, Thank you so much for everything you've shared and for being here today.
Thank you for hosting me. It's been a pleasure.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please do drop this podcast a rating or review. I'd be ever so grateful to reach more of those that need to hear it. So I'd also like to ask you a favour. Who do you know that would benefit from listening to this episode? Please hit share and send it to them too. Thanks so much for listening, and I can't wait to see you here next time. Let's do business differently.